Hi everyone, it's Megan. Happy Sunday. I hope you're doing well. We are continuing our series on the book of Genesis. We are officially in chapter 37 of the book in Genesis. So if you were to open your Bible today, we'd be talking about Genesis 37 through 41. We're in chapter 9. If you remember last week, we talked about Jacob. And we talked about how Jacob married Leah and Rachel, but we learned that Rachel was his favorite out of the two of them. And he had so many sons, but his favorite son is Joseph. So today we are learning more about Joseph's story. This will continue into next week, but we're going to learn a little bit about how Joseph got to where he was at. The chapter title is Joseph the Dreamer. So we're talking about Joseph and all of his fancy dreams that got him placed exactly where he was. So the theme of today is God knows the plans of the future. And we'll see in Joseph's life how God used some bad situations for the good of God. And God is so capable of doing that. The memory verse for today is the Lord was with him, Joseph. And whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. And this is from Genesis 39:23, the second half of the verse. So when we're exploring today's story, there are a couple of things, terms specifically, that I want to mention because they're pertinent or important for today's story. So the first one, we are talking today about kind of a little bit what God is like. So the first term is that God is sovereign. And sovereign means that God is in control of all events. All things that happen, God is in control of. The second thing we're learning is God is omnipotent. A big word, but all omnipotent means is God has all of the power. And God can do anything. The third thing that we're going to talk about is that God is omniscient, which means that God has all knowledge. God knows everything. And the last one is God is omnipresent, which means that God is present everywhere, all the time. So that was kind of a lot. So when we're talking about what God is like, we are saying that God is in control of all things, God can do anything, He knows everything, and is present everywhere. So we serve a pretty cool God, I'm just saying. So who is God? Today we are learning that God is sovereign and controls everything that happens in the world. And we're talking about this because this is going to be very important to today's stories. We're going to learn how God was able to know everything that happens to Joseph. So God made Joseph prosper even in some bad situations because God wasn't surprised by what was happening. So I'm going to have you flip to page 62 if you have your books, and we're going to begin our story time for today. Like usual, I may pause every once in a while to explain a couple of things that maybe help us understand the story a little bit better. So, if you'll read with me. Joseph the Dreamer. "Look, it's the dreamer," Simeon shouted to his brothers. Why is he coming to bother us?" The brothers plotted an evil plan. "Let's kill him and say a wild beast attacked him. Then what will become of his crazy dreams?" Young Joseph was hated by his 10 older brothers. Jacob had given Joseph a fine coat of many colors. They were jealous of the coat. They knew Jacob loved Joseph more than he loved them, and they were angry. They couldn't even talk kindly to Joseph. So I'm going to pause there. Why do you think that the brothers hated Joseph so much? And some of the reason that they hated him so much is actually because of some of last week's story. If you'll remember, Jacob married both Rachel and Leah. He was tricked into marrying Leah when he thought he was marrying Rachel. And so out of the two of them, Jacob loved Rachel the best. Joseph was a son that was born to Jacob in his old age, so he loved Joseph more than anyone else, but he was also the son that was born from his favorite wife, which also made him a favorite. So the 10 older brothers hated Joseph because Joseph was clearly Daddy's favorite, and they really didn't like that. So we are going to learn what they do. But that wasn't all. Joseph had had some disturbing dreams. In one dream, the brothers were making bundles of wheat. Then Joseph's bundle rose up, and all of the brothers' bundles bowed down to Joseph's bundle. "Ha! Shall you roll over us?" the brothers scoffed. Their hatred grew even stronger. Joseph had a second dream. In the dream, the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him. Even Jacob was upset at this dream. "Shall your mother and I and all of your brothers bow down to you?" "Ridiculous," said Jacob. The brothers envied Joseph, and Joseph pondered the matter. Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers and their flocks. Now the brothers had their chance to get rid of Joseph for good. When Joseph arrived at the field where his brothers were tending the sheep, the brothers ripped off his coat and threw him into a deep pit. Before they could kill him, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming toward them. "What profit is it for us to kill him?" asked Judah. "Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites," the brothers agreed. So Joseph was sold for 20 pieces of silver and taken to Egypt. The brothers dipped Joseph's coat in animal blood and told their father that Joseph was dead. Jacob was sad and grieved for Joseph many days. In Egypt, Joseph was sold to Potiphar, a captain of the Egyptian guard. The Lord prospered Joseph, and soon Potiphar put him in charge of his entire household. All went well until one day, when Potiphar was gone from the house. Potiphar's wife saw how handsome Joseph was, and she tempted him. She tried to convince him to sin against God and his master Potiphar. Joseph firmly said no and ran away from her. But as he ran, she grabbed his shirt. When Potiphar saw Joseph's shirt in his wife's room, he believed her lies that Joseph had sinned and promptly threw Joseph in prison. How unfair it was for Joseph to be thrown into prison for something he didn't do. Joseph continued to trust God, and the Lord prospered him. When the keeper of the prison saw that God was with Joseph and that Joseph was trustworthy, he gave Joseph authority over all other prisoners. In prison, Joseph met Pharaoh's chief butler and chief baker. Pharaoh had gotten angry with them and threw them into prison. One day, two men looked very sad. When Joseph asked them about their sadness, they replied, "We each had a dream, and we don't know what the dream means." Joseph said, "God is an interpreter of dreams. Tell me your dreams, and God will give us the meaning of the dream." The butler said, "I dreamed there was a vine with 3 branches with ripe grapes. From the grapes I made wine and gave it to Pharaoh, and he drank it." Joseph said, "Your dream means that in 3 days, Pharaoh will give you back your job as a butler. Please remember me when you get out of prison." The butler agreed to do so. The baker said, "I dreamed I had 3 baskets of white bread on my head. Birds came and ate from the topmost basket." Sadly, Joseph told the baker that his dream meant that he would be killed in 3 days. In 3 days, both dreams had come true, just as Joseph had said. And Joseph was left alone and sad in Pharaoh's prison. So, that is the end of our story time today. And let me tell you, it seems like a little bit of a downer, doesn't it? Joseph is envied by his brothers. He's sold into slavery. He was accused of something he didn't do. He was thrown in prison, and then he was left there. So, when our theme today says that God is in control, God knows the plans of the future, and that God is sovereign and controls everything that happens, you may wonder, if I were Joseph, I probably wouldn't have been that happy with what was going on, right? So today in our story, we see that Joseph was in some bad situations, but through those situations, Joseph trusted God explicitly. Joseph didn't wonder if God was doing the right thing. He may have gotten discouraged, but he always trusted that God was going to do good. And so even in a bad situation, Joseph was able to see that Joseph served a God that was bigger than his circumstances. It was bigger than God is bigger than what was going on in his life. And he was able to trust the goodness of God. So even though Joseph was in some bad situations, he trusted God enough to know that he wouldn't be left in the bad situation. So we're learning that God is sovereign. God controls plans, and God uses even bad situations for the glory of God and the goodness of the people that love God. So we leave in our story today, we're leaving Joseph in kind of a bad place. He's in prison, he's possibly discouraged, but we know that Joseph is trusting God even though he's in a bad situation. But we also know that God is always planning for the good of God's people. And even though we hit bad situations like Joseph does, we know that, God's probably not going to leave Joseph in the bad situation. In fact, you probably know how this story continues, but I am not going to tell us because we have to have a story for next week. So next week, we are in chapter 10, and we are going to find out exactly what God has in store for Joseph in the book of Genesis. I hope I see you then. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good one, you guys. I'll see you next week.